Governor John Hickenlooper submitted his 2018 budget proposal this week. He made headlines by asserting that retirees and state employees using PERA should be on the hook for the cost of the changes to the program and making up for a projected shortfall, not taxpayers. Amy, I was surprised to hear Governor Hickenlooper's comments about PERA. The budget we were expecting, that he kind of fires the first proposal, but were you surprised to hear his comments?
Well, yeah, I was surprised that he said taxpayers shouldn't be on the hook. I give him credit for that. Still, we have a long way to go to make PERA even remotely solvent, but at least he's not looking at taxpayers to bail out all of, to bail out PERA. PERA needs a lot more reform than just saying, taxpayers are going to have to bail it out or not. What shocked me more about that budget, though, not a single word about fixing roads. I'm like, that was such a big play all last year, and now we have money. We've got a $30 billion budget, and you don't see anybody saying we're going to start bonding for roads. So I think while PERA was a huge surprise in that he said taxpayers shouldn't be on the hook, I also think the surprise was in the omission.
Maybe there's a more powerful tire and alignment store lobby that we don't know about that is really hitting there. Eric, were you surprised to see what the stance that Governor Hickenlooper made? And do you think that we only see a stance like this when we know he's no longer a governor in just a short amount of time?
I'm not going to opine on his motives. I really don't understand it. Yes, I was a little surprised, but very pleasantly surprised. It was a bold stance on Governor Hickenlooper's part to really sort of put down that marker. It was a message to fellow Democrats in the legislature. Full disclosure here, I work with a group called Secure Futures Colorado. They're sort of the lead group pushing meaningful, substantial, structural PERA reform. This is going to be perhaps issue number one in the coming legislative session. The deck sort of got cleared last year with construction defects and with hospital provider fee and whatever. PERA is in a mess. PERA, by previous law, they have to annually publish their signal lights, which is sort of like the Department of Homeland Security, state of alert. But all 5 divisions of PERA are in the orange category in terms of funding. So PERA is forced to come to the legislature with a proposed fix. This will be a very heavy issue in this session. I assume it will not be the last time we talk about it around this table. Quickly, yes, there is just an issue of solvency and down the road ability to pay all these bills. Not short term, they certainly have plenty of money to pay their obligations short term. But there are other issues that move me as much. One is, it is just a model that is not adapted to the current generation of workers. The old notion that you start a job at age 24, 25, you retire 35 years later from the same employer, you get a sheet cake on the way out the door. That doesn't happen. Our kids' generation, that is just not the coming pattern. And increasingly this state, whether it's roads that Amy mentioned or anything else, pension debt is crowding everything else out of the budget. And whatever your interest is, it is getting crowded out by the more and more money we continue to put into funding this pension debt.
Ed, you're a guy in Capitol Hill. How do you think this goes down? What's going to be the response from lawmakers, especially since we have another year of a split legislature?
I was amazed at how silent lawmakers were after the proposal came out on Wednesday. In fact, the only response we've really seen is the one that Amy mentioned earlier, the Senate Republicans being quite upset that there's no general fund money going to transportation, although they came out and said, we're pretty pleasantly surprised at what he's done with PERA, and we think this is a pretty decent idea. I think it was really interesting the way that Governor Hickenlooper phrased it. Is he didn't say, I don't want to stick the taxpayers with more obligations. He said, I don't want to stick the employers with more obligations. Now, the employers in this case are public employers. They're the state, they're the school systems, things like that. But he's almost framing that in a way in which he seems to be really wanting to get the Republicans on his side here and to get moderate Democrats on his side as well, saying this is not just a tax issue. This is almost an employer versus the state issue. I don't know, quite frankly, how this is going to go down, but I think Hickenlooper can feel rest assured in this, that the Senate itself is not going to come in and say, I'm sorry, Governor, we really want to charge taxpayers/employers more money. And so I think that's the card he's starting out with here. He's almost telling his own party, who again were the ones that were very silent on the budget, here's what I give you. You try to see if you can do better than this. And in this case, they probably won't. They know that. They couldn't do better with transportation funding last year. And I think it's going to lead to a very interesting battle. But I think this is going to be just one of many battles around this budget.
Patty, what do you think? Should state retirees and employees right now be a little worried about the situation?
Well, I think they're definitely going to be worried they're going to lose some of that pension, which is better than losing all of the pension. PERA definitely needs to be fixed. But it's interesting because Hickenlooper's a lame duck. He doesn't have to make the taxpayers happy. So he took what he felt was the right way to fix this. I mean, 3 years ago, yes, he would have, when he was running against Tom Tancredo, he might have had to do that. Now, the Democrats who are in the legislature, they're the ones who are going to have to worry about what the taxpayers think. So it'll play better with them to go with the governor, with his current stance, than to side with the unions, go against the employers. But I have to say, it's not just people going into government now who stay there 30 years. People who stay in private industry for 30 years, they're not even getting the cake, much less the pension. So a lot of people there are not going to be, a lot of people in the state are not going to be that sympathetic to the state employees.